In today's video, I'm going to give you the essentials of how to create unique photography that will grab attention and help you stand out from the crowd. Before we get into it today though, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a domain name, a website, or an online store, then make your next move with Squarespace. So how, when there are billions of people out there taking images, can we stand out and create something unique? A little while ago, I was a member of a Facebook group that was populated by hundreds of photographers all going out and creating landscape photography vlogs. The conversation had turned to discussing whether or not we'd reached the point where all of these vlogs were the same, with things like aerial footage and the classic walk past shot. There was lots of focus on these technical B-roll shots and people getting frustrated and worrying that their content was not unique. Now, in some cases, this was probably true, but I wanted to help out, so I jumped on there and made a point that many of them didn't understand. What I said was this: you know, Top Gear's not about cars, don't you? And landscape photography vlogs are not about landscape photography. Now, the point is that since humans have developed consciousness and language, pretty much everything we have achieved has been built on communication and storytelling. Unless you are in the minority of scientific or engineering geniuses, pretty much everything we do or desire involves storytelling and communication. Art, sales, teaching, religion, entertainment, time with family and friends. Even infrastructure like farming, transport, or heavy industry really only exists to make our lives better and easier, so we can spend more time interacting and telling each other stories without having to worry all the time about survival. In Top Gear, the car is literally just a vehicle for the story being told. The story is the human element, the adventures of three people interacting together. Landscape vlogs, the good ones, show stories, insight, and challenges faced by the photographer in the pursuit of a great shot. It's that human element, the story, and the way it's communicated that makes it interesting. It's also what makes it unique. In exactly the same way, the key to creating unique photography is you. Unique means one of a kind, and you are. No one else has your story or your experiences, and trying to find a way to feed that into your creative pursuits is what makes art so interesting and also at times so frustrating. The beauty of communication is that there are many ways to convey an idea. Talking is the obvious one, but not everybody is a great talker. You might be great at writing or drawing, or you might even be a good singer. Photography, like any art, is also a form of communication, and deciding what to put within the four edges of our frame is all we have. There's no sound, no smell, and no movement, so often telling a story with a photograph can be much harder. There are things we can do. We can create a sense of loneliness by isolating a subject in space, or we can create a happy feeling by using highly saturated colours. But it's nearly always easier if there's a person in the frame. We can create an uneasy mood by having the subject facing out of the frame, or take a wedding, for example, and capturing the first kiss. That the story in that image is very, very obvious, and for those people at least, that is absolutely a unique moment. In landscape photography particularly though, it can be very difficult to figure out what the story is. It might just be the story of the scene in front of you, but a lot of the very best landscape photography gives you a sense of the person behind the camera. You can get a feeling of what they were trying to portray, or you can share the emotions that they were experiencing at the time. Even though it's just a picture of a beautiful landscape, one way or another, it still produces a very human response, even if that's just making the viewer wish they were there in that moment. Now, in the past, I've received criticism for talking about this kind of thing, particularly from men, and I even had one person comment saying, "Oh, what should I do? Cry into my tissue as I push the shutter button, or should I just go up a hill and take a pretty picture?" Now, the one way to guarantee that your photography will never be unique and stand out is to never move beyond the technical and prescriptive way of shooting. If you're not making a connection with the work that you're creating, how can you possibly expect anybody else to? That's not to say though that the technical doesn't matter, because it absolutely does. Having mastery of your camera and being a wizard at Lightroom and Photoshop and understanding lighting is one of the keys to standing out. But so much of photography education only focuses on the technical, whereas I think it's equally important to explore both the technical and the artistic right from the start. If you do this, your photography journey can also become a voyage of self-discovery. The quest to understand ourselves has never been more important either in this world of social media, constant comparisons, and people always trying to put us down. We need to know what makes us happy and what really matters, and that applies to both our life and the photography that we're creating. So I guess in some way, if we want to create unique photography, it might be better for a moment to actually stop thinking about it. If we assume that photography is a representation through our own eyes of our life and our perspective, then maybe it's going to be better to focus on that. Seek out new experiences, be curious, question everything, associate with people that will raise you up, and all this results very quickly in you feeling inspired. Inspired to pick up the camera, get out there and put something within that frame that will serve as an outlet for our creative energy. Right, now let's take a look at a few practical tips and discuss how we can stand out. But before we do that, I just want to thank the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. Squarespace is the perfect place to build your website. It has beautiful templates to choose from that are perfect for photographers. And when you upload your pictures and content, you will be left with a unique and beautiful website. It's easy to set up, you don't need any technical knowledge, and you can have something up and running in about an hour. Head over to squarespace.com to start your free trial today and then use the offer code FIRSTMAN to get 10% off your first purchase. Right, let's talk about standing out. If you've ever heard successful people talk, particularly sports people when they've won some kind of event, one of the things that they will often say is that you can achieve anything if you put your mind to it. Kids get told this in school as well, and unfortunately it's just not true. We can't all stand out. It's literally impossible, because if we all stood out, we would just be standing together. I learned this many years ago when I had to come to terms with my mediocre music ability and sporting prowess, where I was essentially just a jack of all trades and master of none. Rather than aiming to stand out though, a much better goal might be just to strive to become the very best that we can be, whether it's photography or otherwise. This saves us from constantly comparing ourselves to other people or creating arbitrary targets that we're quite likely to end up failing. It even gives us the room to then excel, because if our only goal is to stand out, if you are successful at doing that, then you might end up giving yourself a pat on the back and stop. This is a particular risk for a professional photographer who might feel like they've made it. So what can we do? If you want to be a professional, these things are essential, but they do also apply to anyone that wants to aspire to give themselves that chance of standing out from the crowd.
Hi, I'm Adam Carnach, and welcome to First Man Photography. This is my new YouTube channel where I'm going to be posting videos as often as possible, and it's linked to my website at firstmanphotography.com.
Now the first one, and undoubtedly the most important one, is hard work. This counts for so much, and by outworking the next guy, it will almost certainly eliminate any advantage they have over you due to natural talent. So as an amateur, this might mean getting the camera out every single day, putting the effort in to master the technical, and giving yourself the best chance to go out there and capture those amazing and rare moments. For a professional, this would be something different. At this point, your photographic proficiency is already assumed. It becomes much more about putting the hard miles in to find new business, getting your name out there, sharing regularly on social media, and building up your contacts. Whatever you're doing, you'll know you're working hard and winning when people regularly start telling you you're lucky. Landscape photographers know this, because it wasn't luck that dragged their ass out of bed at 3 a.m, drove for 2 hours, climbed up a mountain in the dark to be in that perfect position to capture that beautiful sunrise. Now, important as hard work is, it's important to get a balance and enjoy some downtime as well. Just don't waste time. The next thing is, what's your USP? We're all naturally unique, but your unique selling point is what's going to help you to stand out, and it might require a little bit more thought. It might be a creative style or a combination of styles. It might be your personality, or it might be something a little bit more practical. When I did wedding photography, I felt that my USP was the fact that I offered pictures and video for not very much more money, because in the early days of this YouTube channel, I'd become very accustomed to churning out videos very, very quickly. Now though, this YouTube channel has become part of my USP, and that is definitely a product of hard work. Another way to stand out and make unique work is to create multimedia. Accompanying your photograph with a video is a particularly effective way of telling the story, but also taking some time to write some copy to go along with your photograph can do the same thing. It allows us to push the narrative that much further and helps people engage with our work at a much deeper level. Every time I post a picture to Instagram, I really cannot be bothered writing any copy, but I always force myself to do it, and I'm almost always pleased that I did, especially when the copy or what I've written has really resonated with somebody. The next trick to getting your photography to stand out is to print your work, but today I'm going to suggest we take it a step further and then exhibit our work. This is purely a numbers game. If you imagine how many people you know that take photographs, it's almost everybody these days, isn't it? But then of those, how many actually print their work? A few, potentially. And then of those people, how many then go on to exhibit their work? And I imagine it's virtually nobody. Now, exhibiting your work can get very expensive and it can be difficult as well, but you could approach an existing exhibition and try and get a piece of your work in there, or you can approach a business to get sponsorship to put on your own exhibition. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, it's going to require some hard work, but it can be done and has been by several photographers. This essentially all boils down to what I love the most about photography. It's that marriage between the practical and the artistic. We create unique work by engaging our own experiences and moving beyond the technical to communicate a story within that frame. Then, to stand out, we've got to get super practical, put in the hard work, and we'll give ourselves the best chance to rise to the challenge and become the best that we can be.